What up, what up? Today we're going to be making marinara sauce in the Instant Pot. It's easier than you think, and once you make it yourself, I promise you'll never reach for the jarred stuff again. Doesn't matter how desperate or how in a hurry you are, life is short and this stuff is just too good not to make. Let's get started. Start by preheating your oven to 350 degrees. I've got less than a pint of cherry tomatoes here because I use some in a salad, but take about a pint of cherry tomatoes, cut them in half, sprinkle them with some olive oil, some salt and pepper, then toss them around a bit to combine. Next, I'm going to put them on a foil-lined baking sheet and scatter them around in an even layer and put the tomatoes in my preheated 350-degree oven to roast. I'm going to cook them for about 10 or 15 minutes until they're soft. You can wait till you see little char marks on them if you like. I just like to soften them up a bit. And then from the oven, I'm going to take them out and put them into my food processor, which is affixed with a metal blade here. Whir them up and set them aside. Next up, I'm going to work on the carrots. Trim the carrots and then dice them into about 1/4-inch pieces. Don't worry too much about how big your pieces are. We're going to take an immersion blender to the finished marinara sauce, and that's going to make our sauce nice and uniform. Next up is the celery. Do the same thing with the celery that you did with the carrots and add them to the same bowl. We're going to work on the onions now. Peel and trim the onions and cut them into about 1/4-inch pieces too. Again, not too concerned with the size. The immersion blender is going to take care of that. Add the onions to a separate bowl and let's move on to the garlic. I've got about 6 cloves of garlic here. They've been peeled. I'm going to run them through my garlic press, and then I'm going to put the garlic in a separate bowl and set it aside. Moving on to the basil. I love basil. Love it. I put about a 1/2 cup in this recipe. I rough chop it and I add it to the pot when I bloom my aromatics. Preheat about 3 tablespoons of olive oil in your Instant Pot on the high saute setting and add the onions. Lightly salt them and then give them a good kick around the pot for about 5 to 10 minutes or so or until they turn translucent and just brown around the edges. That browning of the onions is going to give our marinara sauce a nice, sweet flavor. The onions are looking just about ready. It's time to add to the pot our carrots and celery. Lightly salt them as well and give them a good stir around the pot until they are nice and soft. That's going to be about another 5 minutes or so. Once that's done, you're going to add the garlic and the basil, followed by the thyme. I like to take whole sprigs of thyme and just strip them of their leaves and add the thyme leaves directly to the pot. Add the oregano, about a teaspoon or so, and I'm going to stir that around until the aromatics are fragrant. That'll take about 30 to 60 seconds. After that, I'm going to add about 3/4 of a cup of red wine and kick the vegetables around in the pot until that red wine is fully evaporated. I'm not sure how long that takes. I'm going to guess around 5 or 10 minutes, but you're just going to want to wait until when you move the vegetables aside, you don't see any red wine in their trail. Once that's all dried up, we're going to add our tomato paste. I've got about 1 to 2 tablespoons of tomato paste here, and we're going to stir that around and get it nice and incorporated with our other ingredients. Once that's finished, it's going to be time to add the pureed tomatoes that we prepared in the food processor. Now toss in 2 cans of whole peeled tomatoes. Stir those around a bit and then add to the pot about a 1/2 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. Stir that to combine. And about 1 teaspoon and a half of white granulated sugar. That'll add a little sweetness to our sauce, which I really like. And sometimes the sauce is a little thick, so you may want to add a little bit of water. I like to rinse the can out and use the water from that to add a little moisture to the pot. That's going to help the pot build steam when we turn it on high pressure here in just a minute. Add a couple of bay leaves to the pot. Set the vent to seal, turn it on high pressure for 30 minutes, and let her rip. Once the high pressure cycle is finished, you can let this thing sit for all day if you want, as long as the keep warm function is on. When you're ready to open the pot, carefully vent any remaining steam, and then get that immersion blender ready. Give the sauce a quick stir with your immersion blender until it's the consistency you prefer. If you want more chunks, stir it less. If you want it smoother, stir it more. Once it's your preferred consistency, we're going to pour this into heat-safe containers. It'll keep in the fridge for about a week and a half or indefinitely in the freezer. This sauce is pretty versatile. You can use it with pasta or any recipe that calls for red sauce. I like to use it as pizza sauce in my pizza recipe, which you can also find on my cooking channel. Homemade marinara sauce is easy and delicious, so skip the jar next time and try making this in your Instant Pot. I think you'll be glad you did. Thanks for watching, and happy cooking, y'all.